journey into the seventh chapter, titled Jnana Vijnana Yoga, the yoga of Jnanam and Vijnanam, which is knowledge and wisdom. As I've told you, the chapter has got 30 verses divided into 6 topics. We've already given the detail earlier. As I did mention last week, perhaps all of you to ponder, gather your thoughts on the differences between knowledge and wisdom. Now, I shall point out 10 salient differences. So please take a note. Now, firstly, we have said that no teacher can ever give you wisdom. A teacher, how enlightened he may be, a guru or a teacher can only give you jnana, can only give you knowledge. No guru can give you wisdom. So don't ever be fooled by the self-styled godmen, self-proclaimed godmen, that with their blessings you can be transformed. No guru can ever do that. And if at all anybody claims to do that, you are going against the very shastras, you're going against the very tradition. So no guru can give you wisdom. Wisdom is transformation. A guru can only show you the path. A guru cannot take you forward in the path. You have to lead the path. You have to tread the path. The guru can't walk for you. You can't delegate your transformation to the guru. The guru can only give you a direction of having tread the path. A guru can show you the path, can guide you in the journey, but he can't put that effort for you. So there's no such thing as by guru's blessings you have evolved. You evolve through your effort. Uddharet atmanatmanam. Lord Krishna, the guru of all gurus, says to Arjuna, I can't help you. You got to lift yourself by yourself. And having said that, the Lord did everything possible in his ability to uplift Arjuna by giving all that wisdom which we are benefited by. Not that the guru doesn't do his part, but it's entirely up to the student whether he evolves or devolves. So don't put the onus on the guru. In that sense, a guru can only give you knowledge. A guru cannot give you wisdom. All right. Now, when knowledge is assimilated, you become wise. So therefore, it is very clear that knowledge is just a process. But wisdom is when you start living it. So the difference between knowledge and wisdom is knowledge is knowing. Wisdom is when you start living the values you appreciate. For example, all of us know that smoking is injurious. But there are people more knowledgeable, those who actually smoke, that smoking is more injurious than those who do not smoke. But yet, what happens to all that knowing that they are not able to live that principle or the value they appreciate or they know? And on the contrary, I remember mentioning this, wise people will actually go about living a life. Wise people actually live a life and they don't necessarily talk about it. It's very difficult to get it out of them. So the accent of a wise man is through his life, through his actions, through his conduct. through his own character. It's not necessary that a wise man has to speak as many words. So in fact, it's very difficult to get out of them. He just lives it. And that becomes an example for everybody. Now, second point, when you become wise, a very powerful sign of that is the world is no more a temptation for you. All the temptations of the world disappear. That which started to charm and enamor you loses its charm. It doesn't have any more fascination for you. So once you get on to the right path, the right spiritual progress, the objects of the world get scorched. They don't get burned, they don't get destroyed, but they get what you call as scorched. What did Hanuman ji do when he went to Lanka? No, they tried to play mischief with Hanuman ji. They lit his tail with fire. And he taught them a lesson. What did he do? He went and they say he scorched Lanka. He didn't destroy Lanka. He just lit it on fire, just charred Lanka. And what does Lanka symbolize? Lanka symbolizes epitomization of sense objects and indulgence. So Lanka is sense objects and indulgence. And one often referred qualification to justify this. They say the level of indulgence in Lanka was that women were drunk in the morning. That's what Valmiki ji puts it in Ramayana. To signify the level of indulgence in Lanka, that he says women were drunk in the morning. Now, can you imagine, in the times of Ramayana itself, Valmiki ji puts it and that he says women were drunk in the morning. It was not acceptable. Now today, any society that drinks, they don't have a certain value systems. And in any society, usually it's the men drink, understandable. So it is bad enough for men to get drunk at night. Okay. Now, worse than that is men to be drunk in the morning, isn't it? Best is not to drink. Next to that is men getting drunk at night. Third is men getting drunk in the morning. Worse than that is women joining the men at night. The worst of all is women drunk in the morning. So in any society, this is what it is. So he's saying the level of indulgence was such that women were drunk in the morning. If the lady in the house, she herself takes to these kind of indulgent practices, it is destruction, destroying of all value systems. Now, don't ask me further clarification, but if at all you have to send your email to Valmiki ji. This is how he has put it. We are trying to make sense out of it. Now, what we are saying, Hanuman ji went and tarnishes the Lanka, which is sense objects indulgence. Means when you roast something, when something is heated in fire, it loses its ability to germinate, isn't it? So when the seeds are roasted on fire, what happens? They don't germinate anymore, which means when you become spiritual, when you have that fire of wisdom, the sense objects of the world gets tarnished, gets scorched by your wisdom, and they are no longer a temptation. They are no longer a distraction. And when do you develop this quality? Only when you have embarked on the higher journey. And this is symbolized by men who wear saffron colored clothes. When they wear an ochre robe, the color of fire, which means I have burnt my desires for the world. I have no place for worldly transactions. So don't disturb me. Don't send me any invitations for worldly transactions. I am not available because I have embarked on the higher truth. That is what saffron colored clothes, which symbolize fire. And that is symbol of just want to see whether you're physically in front of me and mentally somewhere else. And that's a symbol of Ramji. Ayyo, he's telling mentally. I know. Rajima, are you doing the unmuting? Yes.
Namaste, Guruji.
Namaskaram, sir.
I think it symbolizes wisdom, that they have reached that level of wisdom and then they have renunciated everything.
Correct. It is the symbol of wisdom. When you reach that level of wisdom, what happens, sir? Point 2.
You live it. You live the wisdom. So which is a part of, the dress is that you have burnt all your, or you have scorched all your worldly temptations.
Correct. So point 1 is you live it. Second point is the objects of the world lose their charm. So they get scorched.
Yeah. Correct.
Perfect. Perfect. So you can measure your wisdom based on your level of temptation, isn't it? How much does the world tempt you, distract you, draw you away from the path? Isn't it, sir? There is a straightforward path, but these temptations draw you away, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why they are called temptations. Otherwise, temptations are those which tempt you away from your chosen path. So that's why they are called temptations.
There was an ice cream parlor, if I'm not wrong, called Temptations. Is it here in India? I don't know, somewhere in the world I saw. Where is it? Here in Hyderabad, India, somewhere? Ramji, yes. I appreciate.
I don't know.
You do not know. That is sir. You are the only one nodding head. Everybody else nodding the head, sir. Sir, that's the reason I am with you, sir.
I don't know.
see, those who pursue the higher will not know all these temptations. Have got nothing to do with all these temptations.
I'm not enamored by those temptations. Yeah.
Correct, sir. I am only talking to Ramji in this classroom. Rest all I do not know. Everybody, yes, I know the location. Almost they were short of sending me the location also, No, very true. Very good, sir.
But Guruji, one question I wanted to ask. Yesterday, one of my relatives, he was telling me that his friend, and he showed me all pictures, who was a complete bhogi. He was in Dubai and then he indulged in all kinds of things for 15-20 years. And then he came back and he got, I don't know how it happened that this man who told me doesn't know, but he said that he has got transformed and he has left everything now. He is in the pursuit of the higher goal. And he now lives in a small place in Begumpet, and then he sits on the floor, cooks his own food, everything. He lives in Rishikesh most of the time. That is all fine. I think he is in the pursuit and he has got a guru and then he is doing all that. But he has divorced his wife and he left his family. Okay. So I was generally wondering whether is he on the right path or is he on the wrong path? Because whatever I have learned from you so far is that you have to achieve it in the midst of the bazaar, in the midst of the market. But leaving the market and going away from the family, is that the right thing he has done?
Sir, firstly, it is very difficult to come to a conclusion given the facts you're given. I wouldn't be quick to come to any conclusion. But as you rightly said, the teachings, as far as the principles we learn the Shastras do not recommend physical abandonment.
Yeah.
If you perceive physical relationship as a pain or as a trouble, that means it is your wrong relationship with the world, not the world. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So one who gives up the world due to pain or trouble or challenge in its relationship, such renunciation is actually false renunciation, is actually rajasic renunciation. So strictly going by that, we are not recommended to physically part by moving away from your obligated duties, in the name of becoming spiritual.
Yeah.
Rather, it's the contrary. In fact, the Shastras, as you rightly said, you got to lead a life like a lotus leaf in water. Gain so much of vairagya and development and wisdom that the world doesn't impede you. In fact, sir, in the second chapter, if you can have access, I don't have right access to second chapter now. Hariji, which is the verse which says the sense objects turn away from an abstinent man? In the Sthita Prajna portion, it comes after, I think, 67, 68, and the verse that Varda. Here we are talking about, you are talking about shunning the world and leading a spiritual life. In the second chapter, he says, if you lead a spiritual life, the sense objects will not come and disturb you. Even the sense objects turn away from an abstinent man. So what you need to practice is mental abstinence, not physical abstinence. If I may physically abstain from the world, but mentally entertain the values, am I not a hypocrite, sir? I am in no way suggesting that that gentleman you're referring to is a hypocrite. Please don't get me wrong. I am talking the concept. Sure. So if you are so assiduous, if you're so sincere, if you're so devoted to the path, he says, the world will not come and disturb you. And I've actually seen that happening in the journey. Everything, as it were, makes its way for your journey. It paves way for your unfoldment. So the so-called obstacles are no more obstacles, never an obstacle. But if you are not sincere, if you entertain an inward desire or a fascination for the world, the law kicks in. And you know what's the law, sir, here? The law of demand and supply. You demand for the world by inwardly entertaining a value or an appreciation for the world. Somehow the world will come to you and it will draw you away from its path by drawing you towards it. But inwardly, if I have no value for it, that part of the world will never come and disturb me. Sir, just to exaggerate it, magnify what I'm saying, all of you, most of you have met me in some context or other. Even when you all met me during the Guru Purnima, how many of you came with, I'm very talking very wrong here, but I have to take such examples only to convey the point. How many of you came with a whiskey bottle for Guru Dakshina? As Guru Prasad, you have given me Guru Dakshina whiskey bottle or a beer bottle. Bottle parwala, at least a small can. Whenever we parted, not Guru Purnima, I'm saying, if you find it inauspicious, I know it's very inauspicious even to say that. Have you ever given me offered me?
No.
Did you ever offer whenever I came home?
No, that thought never even came anywhere near me. Yeah.
Why, sir? Because you know there is no demand from within me.
Yeah, correct.
Sir, what I'm only saying is you all becomes an instrument of my inward desire or demand for it. All of you are objects of my satisfaction, of my desire, which is the cause. You all become the effect, isn't it? So since I have mentally abstained from the realm of sense object of alcohol. The alcohol keeps away from me. So not now. I'll share this experience. When I was 12, 13 years, maybe 13, 14, you know, I had a very close group of school friends and colony friends. You know, we all used to every day meet evening and spend an hour or two, play at some game, whatever. There were days I could get hold of one fellow, but there were three fellows I couldn't get hold of. And they would not tell where they've gone. I used to go to the house and they said, no, they already left to. Until much later, I knew that these three fellows used to go to a nearby pawn shop and buy some one cigarette and smoke cigarette. Very close friends. And there are certain days in a week they will not call me. They will never call me. But then rest of the time, after that, they'll come and play and we are together. Harishji, can you tell me why they never even invited me? Very close friends. Even now, I'm in touch with them. Very, very close. But yet, for that 1 hour, I was not invited.
Because they knew this was not in your sphere of interest.
Not in my sphere of interest. It is, they knew I was not party to it inwardly. In fact, one day what happened, apparently that fellow had a cigarette with him and somehow his father came up and he put that cigarette in my pocket. I remember me going to my house and my father something saw. Then he never doubted me. I remember that incident. He said, you know, that fellow gave, that Ramesh fellow gave me. I said, okay, he knew that. So what I'm trying to say, Hariji, you got the verse? 59, is it? Can you read the verse for us? Give me the starting of the verse. Chapter 2, verse 59, please.
Vishaya vinivartanti.
Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya
Niraharasya dehinaha.
rasovarjam rasopyasya
param
drishtupa
drishtva
nivartate. Correct. Param drishtupa nivartate. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtupa nivartate. Please refer to chapter 2, verse 59. Ramji, this is the authority to what I've said. If you mentally abstain, once you mentally abstain, you can be amidst the sense objects. You can be in the world. The world will not come and disturb you. That is what symbolizing mentally. So what you are announcing to the world by wearing a garb is only a mentally, I have renounced my value for the world. That's what it means. Okay, Ji? Perfect. Right. So that was the second point. Now, third is we need to understand that the knowledge is just a mere raw material. Knowledge is the raw material which helps you to get to the state we just mentioned, which is to gain an inner abstraction for the world. Because the knowledge of Vedanta talks about Brahman, and Brahman is contrary to the world. When you worship the world, you're not worshipping Brahman. When you worship Brahman, you're not worshipping the world. So in order to gain that subjective state of an abstraction for the world, you need to use the knowledge, which is a raw material. But that state of inner abstraction is a subjective experience. Ashama, samajh rahe hain? So that subjective experience or the state where you reach an inner abstraction, which is symbolized by Hanumanji scorching Lanka. So the seeds, the world has no more temptation or value for you. Point 3. Fourth point, when one has that wisdom, such wisdom is respected, is honored, which is magnified in Kathopanishad, where Lord Yama is the Lord of death. And when Nachiketa, that young boy, goes to Yama, Yama receives Nachiketa by washing his feet. So when you have that wisdom is honored and respected. To such an extent is glorified, the Lord of death washing the feet of a young little boy who came to his doorstep. Even before knowing his caliber, the moment he knew he was a Brahmana, his feet was washed. Now, how do you receive a man of wisdom? Symbolic. Don't take it literally, please. So washing of his feet is bowing down to his wisdom. Lord Yama washing the feet of Lord Nachiketa. Point 5. Knowledge without reflection becomes a burden. If you don't digest and reflect the knowledge, it becomes a burden. Point 6. There is certainly an end to this knowledge, but there is no end to wisdom. Technically, there's an end to wisdom also, but in a relative context, we're saying there is an end to knowledge, but there is no end to wisdom. And that's the reason why people get fed up with knowledge. You get tired. So when you get tired, what people tend to do? Rajendra ji.
You look for a change.
Find another guru, no?
Not really.
The change comes by what? By picking another book, by looking at another guru, or very boring hai yaar, you know, this has become, you become tired. So why do you get tired from the knowledge? You want variety, as you said, rightly so. But why do you get tired with the knowledge? And I must say, the day that happens, that is the end of my sadhana. The day the knowledge which I am sharing or learning I get fed up or tired with it, that is the end. That is the beginning of my end. Sorry to further qualify the question, sir. But the question is, when do you get fed up with the knowledge?
When one person does not understand, he does not reflect upon.
Continue, sir.
Yeah, if he doesn't understand, doesn't reflect upon, he will not be motivated or inspired to bring that into his life. So he feels, I'm wasting my time. Not realizing his own weakness, he starts blaming the source of information, source of knowledge.
Correct. Absolutely right. In fact, you have spelled it out. Because you do not do reflection, you don't do the sadhana at your end, the knowledge becomes very boredom aa jata hai, isn't it?
Yep.
So the accent is on. Therefore, the accent is on.
Proper understanding and reflection of it.
And what is the percentage of it?
Very small.
We'll ask your dear friend what's the percentage. Saiduramanji, I always go to percentage to him only, sir. He's a dear friend of everybody, including me. Yes, Setuji.
5 to 10% input, 95% reflection.
What happened? Your standard permutation you are missing?
30-70.
Oh, 30-70 or 20-80, yeah.
20-80 would have put. But I think for you said that drop of curd is enough. It's a catalyst.
Correct. So you can say, so it could be 10% or 5% or 15%. So it's 10% knowledge, 90% reflection. So when this balance is not set in, there's a great possibility that knowledge becomes a boredom. And I've had students experience this. I had cautioned them. They were not mindful until a time came they stopped attending classes. I knew the inevitable end. They used to literally come. I used to take 7-8 classes a week. Every class they'll come. He and his wife, I remember a couple in Hyderabad, 20 years ago I'm talking, used to come. Religiously, they almost were like my shadow. And if they didn't come, I used to feel uncomfortable. What is this? Where are they? Sorry, Guruji, something urgent came up. Fair enough. I used to be happy when they didn't come. But they turned up for 1.5 years. They were there. After that, slowly I started feeling their absence. And I told them time and again, do not, at least minimum you can come for 2 or 3 maximum, not more than that. You need to sit and contemplate. They didn't do that. Just knowledge. And so that is a point of note you all should do. The question you got to ask yourself, how much of reflection are you doing? Are you doing reflection first of all? Otherwise, you will soon find a need to change the guru. If the thought comes in your mind, this is the reason. Understand that. Don't blame the guru for that. Otherwise, what would be the comment, Rajima? You wanted to say something?
Guruji, you had, in fact, in the last class, you had said that anything that is not digested is rejected, is thrown out. So that is what I was wanting to
Perfect. So you don't digest, you throw out the guru. I don't understand this logic. You eat a chili, my stomach is paining now. What is the logic behind that? I don't understand.
No, Guruji, it's about the knowledge only.
That is what I'm saying. I'm connecting what you said. What did you say? You don't digest, it's thrown out. Now, what is the connection? You don't reflect on the knowledge, therefore, guru is useless. Throw him out. So, guru should not be a means of entertainment for you. It's not a source of entertainment. Oh, I've heard many people come and say, oh, he uses the same examples, become very stale. That experience of feeling staleness in the knowledge is the sign of getting boredom very soon. Remember that. So if it is kicking into your system, be mindful. I repeat, if something starts becoming stale to you, that means your reflection is not sufficient. Don't blame the source of the knowledge or the embodiment of knowledge or the knowledge. It is your sadhana is not being done. If you do, I can certainly guarantee 31 years you will go on without any boredom. Beyond 31 years, I do not know. For 31 years, I have not got tired of this. I can guarantee you 31 years. Beyond that, it's subject to test. Same thing. I am not, the notes which I am referring to, just for your own reference, the notes I'm referring to, I've written 25 years ago, I wrote these notes. 25 years, nothing has changed. But my ability to connect with it has changed. That has certainly changed. The way I am able to relate to what these words I wrote. Somebody was saying other day in the class, at least in the car, I went the other day and there was I addressed a gathering at the Pragati resorts, the group I addressed them. And there was a gentleman, Mr. Ali, such a sweet gentleman. In fact, at the end of the presentation, he got up and said, all what Guruji said, all what we learned today, what is required from us is just write down once. Just let all of us write down on a piece of paper and keep it with us. It will become a source of inspiration rest of our lives. Just we need to write it down once, physical write it down. And it struck a chord with me because that's how I was when I first heard my guru, when I was listening to him. Everything was written, every word, punctuation, comma, and all that is archived and kept. And that is my wealth. I keep falling back on that wealth of wisdom which I've got so that I can get enriched. So that I can convert that into my sadhana through reflection. So if there is a sense of staleness coming in, it is the beginning of the end of your journey with the knowledge. So that should never happen. Okay. Now, seventh point is, if knowledge is not converted into wisdom, knowledge is deadly. There are a couple of points under this, under point 7. If knowledge is not converted into wisdom and knowledge is left by itself alone without doing reflection, a couple of points. First is, when you have knowledge alone, what do you develop? You develop ahankar or ego. You think you know. So knowledge brings about an ego, but it is the digestion of knowledge that brings about destruction of ego. Knowledge gives you ego, but the digestion of it destroys the ego. That's why they say vidya is always associated with humility, vinaya. So destruction of ego is humility. And that you get through reflection, which is again, let's put it 80-20, 80% reflection, 20% knowledge. Okay. Point 1, under 7. Point 2 is, knowledge brings about a false sense of belief. You think you have attained it because you know it. So you attain a false sense of achievement. And once that comes in, there's a disparity that sets in. Badriji, what is the disparity that sets in, sir?
Guruji.
Namaskar.
The disparity is between the reality of the situation and what you assume yourself to be. That is the disparity. That this false sense of achievement is something that you perceive. That is, the person perceives within himself or herself, but that is not what the world perceives, because the world doesn't see. The world doesn't see that wisdom in the actions of that person. Ultimately, wisdom has to reflect in the actions of a person. Okay, if one has wisdom, it will shine in some way or the other. But
correct.
Yeah, but if you simply have knowledge, okay, then the sense of achievement or attainment is what only you feel, but not the world around you sees in you.
Perfect. So others, you are not acceptable by others. When you have knowledge and no wisdom, there is a disparity between your knowing and living. What you know and what you live, and this is very evident in others' perception, and you are not acceptable by them. This is a very, very important point you got to keep in mind. Isn't it, Badriji?
Yes, yeah.
So the disparity is between knowing and living, and this disparity is not acceptable by others, is perceived by others, and you are not acceptable by others.
People see through that.
Very evidently. It is very vividly, very vivid. So you can't fool the world. You can fool yourself, but not the world, isn't it? And all this boils down to having mere knowledge alone. So knowledge is deadly. In fact, it's dangerous. If you have not converted into wisdom, it brings you a false sense of perception of belief, and you're not accepted by others because a disparity sets in. It's beautiful if you understand the difference, isn't it? All right.
With your permission, I can give an example.
Please, please.
Yeah. Let's say we are carrying a tiffin carrier full of food, and we carry it all over the place. Now that's a burden because you are carrying it all over the place. And if you think that the tiffin carrier is some kind of source of growth and nutrition for yourself, then you're only fooling yourself, and the world around you will not perceive it. Okay, you might still look like a hungry fellow to the world outside, but if you eat the food in the tiffin carrier and you digest it, then the world will perceive the nutrition that it gives you. I'm talking about on a continuous basis. I'm not talking about a one-time kind of thing, on a continuous basis. So if you treat knowledge as a possession, which is what the carrying the tiffin carrier is, okay, it's like a possession, then it is a burden, it's going to drag you down, and it's not going to give you any benefit. But if you internalize that food, then it becomes part of you, and the world will perceive what good it has done for you. So I just thought I'll give that as an example.
Sir, I have taken note of the example, sir. Wonderful.
Thank you.
I actually have. You may not believe me. I actually have taken note. So it will bring in a new dimension so that you all say Guruji is not stale, just to keep you all more entertained. I'll keep using the example. And then I also say proprietorship goes to Badriji. Namaskar. Perfect, sir. Now, point 3 under 7 is when you have this knowledge, as I said, it is deadly. How it becomes dangerous is knowledge brings about a sense of guilt. A very, very important point. Knowledge brings about a sense of guilt. Now, before I perhaps expand this, let me check with yes, Sudhakar ji. I've already done, ma.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om, sir. Yes, sir.
I got a basic question of how to convert the knowledge into the wisdom. And it all depends on your level of intelligence. And all these vasanas also come into obstruct it. And when you compare to somebody else, you know, his wisdom levels are different and my wisdom levels are different. But to my conscience, I am 100% sure I am at wisdom. But I may not be able to prove to somebody else. How to? Suppose if I am involved with some other people doing so many things, and to my knowledge, I am using my wisdom. But suppose if I am involved with some other people, you know, where our association is there, how to prove my wisdom to them?
Sir, if I could quickly comment on this last sentence you made, that you don't need to prove it to anybody. Others have to have the eye of wisdom to see the wisdom in you. And if they don't have it, you can't give it to them. As I've said, the first opening statement, I said, nobody can give wisdom. You can only give knowledge.
Then what is my, I mean, say, reciprocation to that?
Reciprocation to what?
Suppose if we are in a group and we are indulged in so many things, and when when they have given me the liberty to do something, to my conscience, I am doing right thing. But if they are not able to convince, what is my wisdom level? Where do I stand? And how am I to approach? All these things will come into the question.
So there is no standard solution to how to deal with situations, because each situation demands a different response. So am I to keep quiet, or am I to be vocal, or am I or am I to be perhaps you can take an authority at times, or perhaps you may just say, I would want to be a mere witness to all that's happening. You can't say a standard blanket solution to different situations.
Yes.
In fact, the real wisdom is to be able to measure each situation and how you react. So that presence of mind is very important. Now, just not to take any references, because I don't wish to. Recently, I was in a company with someone very knowledgeable, and there was a dialogue that was happening, which came into the realm where I had something to comment. And when I had commented, there was other person plunged into it, arguing, challenging, and wanting to prove me wrong. And others who were actually witness to it will endorse it and say, yes, I actually almost went into a shell like a tortoise. I went into a shell, I almost kept quiet, agreeing to everything, whatever he said thereafter. So the best thing I felt at that point is, there's no point making a point. The only point you can make is agree to him and say, keep quiet, and say, yes, sir, thank you very much. Perfect. Absolutely. You're right.
I think the silence is the best solution for all these things.
Now, again, I said, you can't say as a standard. You can't say as a blanket silence is the best thing. Sometimes you have to speak out and let them know. You don't have to take it emotionally or personally if somebody doesn't agree with you. You can say, this is perhaps a point you may want to consider.
So
you can always be very polite.
Finally, in spite of all the best of the communications, if nothing is received properly from the others, what should be my response? That is what I'm asking.
I think the best, sir, as we often are told, knowledge should be taken.
Yes.
Never given. So don't go about passing your advice, your valuable advice, to those who may not respect it. Why are you I would even say wasting your time?
Yes.
Because when the knowledge is respected, it will be regarded, it will be sought. Let them know your value and seek it.
Yes.
When you go and give it before they are ready, this is the possible backlash where they will not accept it, or they may almost reject it. So don't go about giving knowledge. Therefore, what you should do, start living the knowledge in your own lives.
Yes.
If you start living it without giving it, there's a greater chance you will be accepted by others. But just because others don't accept you, that doesn't make your wisdom any less.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. It may sound contradictory to just what I made in 7.2. The disparity is also seen by others and you're not accepted. So there is no contradiction to that point. I hope you understand, sir.
Yeah.
You know, A fool may not understand your grandeur and greatness.
Yes.
That doesn't make your wisdom any less. That doesn't make it any less. All right, sir.
Very nice.
Sure. And I think your first question as to how to gain wisdom, we will bring it up very soon in the course of the class, or very soon we'll clarify. Okay, Ji. Right. Okay, Setu Ji.
Hari Om Guruji, I just wanted to share this wisdom is for individual evolvement. So when I receive wisdom, whether I have received, I know from my own action whether I am evolving or not. And if I am evolving, that means my wisdom quotient is increasing, spiritual quotient is increasing. So as far as the others are concerned, as you said, rightly said, that we should not, people should come and approach and seek by our behavior some clarification and all. At that time we can give. Otherwise we are on an individual growth, and our ultimate goal is self-realization. So it is an individual travel. Whether we are traveling upward or not, we know with every day, whether we are reacting to things, whether we are accepting things like that. See, this self-purification. So that is the best way to measure our wisdom quotient.
Absolutely. Very true, sir. It's a subjective journey. So you don't have to drag people along with you. But if somebody wants to tag along with you, most welcome. Isn't it? Yes. Don't drag people along, but they can tag along. Am I allowed to use the word, sir? Huh? Thank you, Ji. So tag along is okay. Don't drag along. Reddy Garu, not right, Rajima. Right? English language, no. Principle, English principle. You know, I have to check with her. Namaskaramala apro pannungo. First to clarify pannungo. Is it right or not?
It's right, Guruji, but sometimes we need to drag along also.
Okay. Some push and pull also is required. Reddy Garu.
Yes, Guruji. Namaskar.
Namaskar. 7.3, the point I said, is when you have only knowledge, it creates guilt. All right?
Yes,
now,
guilt.
Knowledge creates guilt. Now, can you explain that? Do you understand what that means?
I expected this question going to come to me, but still my brain passed.
Oh my God. So you feel, are you feeling guilty about it or what?
It's exactly the way I would like to say it. What could be my answer is where I am feeling, not able to give it.
No, please don't feel guilty, sir. Yeah?
No, I'm just trying to understand. Can I have some clue, Guruji?
Yeah. See, the best clue I can give you is when there is no knowledge, which is ignorance, there is no guilt. So you may be doing the wrong thing, but there's no guilt.
Yeah, I think
so what is the common thing in guilt feeling and no guilt feeling? What is the common thing?
Ignorance.
No. I say knowledge gives you guilt, ignorance doesn't give you guilt. What is the common thing? If you answer this question, it becomes clearer. I repeat the question. Don't jump into answer. Think, please. Let's pause if required. Knowledge gives guilt, ignorance, almost, I would say, ignorance gives you comfort. My question is, what is common in these two states?
Intellect.
Come on, Reddy Garu, no. We are saying knowledge and ignorance, sir. How can intellect be there in ignorance?
So in absence of that.
No, sir, I'm asking what is common? Just hold on, Reddy Garu, just hold on. Pinky Ma, what is common in both? In knowledge, there is guilt. In ignorance, there is comfort. The question is, what is it that is common in both?
When we don't know, ignorance is I don't know, so I don't have any guilt feeling. But I feel guilty because I know and I'm not doing what I should do. If I know and I don't do, then I feel guilty.
Yes, you already explained those two statements. My question is, what is common in both these two states? Two different states, what's the common factor?
Between ignorance
and knowledge. Ma, just going back again to the statements I said, knowledge produces guilt, ignorance produces comfort. In the sense, they say ignorance is bliss. Don't they say so?
Yes.
Now, I've purposely not used the word bliss, I've used the word comfort. Now, taking these two statements, what is the common factor? One word answer.
2 words can I use? No.
No. Okay, 2 words for you.
Just repeat that again. If knowledge is, ignorance is comfort and knowledge is?
Guilt.
Guilt.
Guilt, okay.
What is common? Okay.
Actually, they are opposites. That is knowing, that is not knowing.
Time out, time out.
Okay.
Time out, time out. I have to start introducing new rules into the game now here. Padmini Ma.
What is common in both is the action.
What action?
Whether you know something or you do not know something, in both cases there is some deed, something which is done. That is common. But what makes an action with knowledge is because the conscience is pricking that you know it is wrong and then you are doing the thing.
Perfect. Bullseye. 100 marks to you. I am so glad somebody got it. The action is the same. The same action you're performing. When you perform the action in ignorance, it gave you comfort. Now you have gained some knowledge, but you have not done reflection for transformation. So there is a time between ignorance and wisdom. There is a time gap between ignorance and wisdom, and the ignorance and wisdom time gap is knowledge. And knowledge produces guilt. What a point. If you are able to get to that, the concept is just staggering. Perfect, Padmini Ma. Yes. Now, Setuji.
Guruji, I meant tamasic action.
Now, what is tamasic action?
See, the ignorance man is a tamasic man. He is, and a man who is got knowledge but not doing sadhana is tamasic is coming in the way of doing sadhana.
No. That's why I wanted to, that is why I wanted to connect with you. Tamas is where you are ignorant, and that ignorance creates comfort. In the context, ignorance creates bliss. That is tamasic action. Okay. Rajasic action is where you have a desire to seek knowledge. You have sought the knowledge.
But everyone has got all the quotient. The tamasic in it is a mixture.
Don't mix up. We are saying, no, there is tamas quotient also. But how does the tamasic quotient express? tamasic quotient expresses as ignorance is bliss in you. So just for example, I know there are certain things you're doing ignorantly, but you don't feel anything wrong about it. But I know what you're doing is wrong from my point of view. And as knowing you, I'm just saying, for example, is it not possible that there is certain amount of ignorance and tamas in you? It is possible, isn't it? Until, oh, Guruji had said that before. Until, let's say, a couple of months down the road, it strikes you and says, oh, this is what the knowledge means. And you bring about a consciousness. But have you transformed? No, you have come out of ignorance. You have come into the realm of knowledge. But since you have not reached the state of sattva, the guilt is there. Go back to the statement I said in the question. Knowledge produces guilt. Ignorance produces comfort. So knowledge is rajas. Ignorance is tamas.
Wisdom is sattva.
Wisdom is sattva. Harishi, if you can just capture this for us in an equation, sir. Tamas equals
Then
or rather we can put it this way, Harishi. If we can say ignorance creates, now I'm adding something more to the equation, I'll explain. Ignorance creates comfort plus consequences. Ignorance creates a certain amount of comfort plus consequences. This is tamas. Knowledge creates guilt plus further consequences. I'll explain. Huh? Please add the word further with reference to Rajas, sir. Guilt, knowledge creates guilt plus further consequences, which equals Rajas. Wisdom creates growth plus no consequence. Just staggering. I don't know whether you're able to tolerate all this avalanche of knowledge coming. It's just, I'm not able to tolerate. I don't know how much you're able to tolerate. Hariji, did you post? We don't see it. The ignorance spelling requires correction. Other than that, ignorance creates comfort plus consequences, which is tamas. Knowledge creates guilt plus further consequences, which is rajas. Wisdom creates growth plus no consequence, which is sattva. Perfect. Now, Gayatri Ma, when we said knowledge produces guilt and ignorance produces comfort, what did we say the common factor is?
Action.
Action. What does that mean? That means you could be performing a certain action in ignorance. You are comfortable because you don't know doing the wrong thing. And then we said what comes along with it is the consequence. Consequence means the karma effect comes in. Karma phala. You may be doing ignorantly, but there is the consequence of that action. Can you think of an example? I know you understand it correctly. So can you come with an example?
Example which I heard from you only, while driving, if you hit a dog or something, I may be not aware of it, I may just go away. But the consequences I'll face of it, like I'm not aware, I'm not guilty also. So the consequences I will bear for it.
Okay, perfect. The dog suffered injury, or it could be a casualty because of your reckless driving, but you were not aware that there was a dog crossing, which you can't say I was not aware. You better be aware because you're driving it. End of the day, you pay the price. All right, fair enough. We can debate on that example, but that's as long as you get the concept right. Okay, perfect. Now, okay, Ramji, I know you want to say something, but I want to engage you here. Coming to the second thing we said is knowledge creates guilt plus further consequences. Now, when you have knowledge of an action and you do it because you have no control over the mind, obviously it produces guilt. Am I right? Now,
yes.
What is the further consequences to that along with guilt? Because guilt itself is a consequence. That is why I said further consequence.
Because you will still face the consequences of the action, what the ignorant fellow might have faced. Because you take the example of breaking of law. You might have broken it out of ignorance, or you might have broken it out of knowledge, knowing that there is a law and you try to circumvent the law, you break the law. Both the cases, consequences will be there because the law takes its own course. Law will punish you, whether you have done it out of ignorance or out of knowledge.
Perfect. So why we qualified it as further consequences? Because guilt itself is a consequence.
Correct. Correct.
Are we right to say that? Now,
yes.
just to add an example there, I am a smoker. I know smoking kills. So whenever I smoke, there is a guilt of doing something which I know is wrong. The consequence is I'm destroying my health every puff I take in. Am I right? The damage, absolutely, the price I pay. That is rajas. So if someone is stuck in mere knowledge acquisition, remember you are just in a rajasic state. It doesn't help you at all. As Badriji said, carrying a heavy tiffin box with you, it's only a burden. It is not going to help you at all in transforming you. It's just a burden. Right, sir. Now, yes, sir. You wanted to clarify something, please.
No. In fact, it's partly answered. I wanted to say that these three sentences you mentioned, ignorance creates comfort, or knowledge creates guilt, wisdom creates growth. I wanted to ask that before this, should we say action out of ignorance, action out of knowledge, action out of wisdom? Because these are all consequences of actions.
Yes.
Because ignorance by itself doesn't produce anything. So if you have acted out of ignorance, it produces. I would just wanted to ask whether action should be added before these three sentences. That was number one. Number two was that wisdom creates growth plus no consequences. But I think I got it clarified now because I thought growth itself is a consequence. So wisdom does produce a consequence, which is growth.
No consequence. I'll clarify that. First, to your first point, I think we did classify all these three under action. So you can add the word action prior to it. Perfect. Now, second clarification, you said growth plus no consequence. What happens when you gain wisdom? The desires and the vasanas get sublimated. So there's no consequence, no karma. There is no karma phala also. There's only growth.
But isn't your journey towards the higher purpose, which comes out of wisdom, isn't that a consequence?
In that sense, being comfortable also is a consequence.
Yeah, it is.
Being guilty also is a, yes.
Correct. That's what I'm saying, that comfort, guilt, growth, all three are consequences.
Yes, it is.
And
but you know,
there is no.
we're just trying to, in fact, why we have put a consequence as another category? Because if you say ignorance and comfort, ignorance and comfort are synonymous. They can be taken. They can be taken synonymously. Knowledge and guilt can be taken synonymously. Wisdom and growth can be taken synonymously. I hope you're all with me. It is. I tell you, I mean, it's a fascinating journey we are going through. Even before we got into the chapter, we are doing this. So that's the reason we said it is plus consequences. I've said, you know, you're not wrong when you say that, but we can just to elucidate further. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Yes. Tinkima, please.
Guruji, this statement, action out of knowledge creates guilt. Now, I thought the guilt is created because we have the knowledge, but we are not applying it in life. I know what is right, but I don't care and I go ahead. That means action, not doing action, though I have the knowledge. That would create guilt, isn't it? Because action out of knowledge, especially when it is guided by the intellect, then we don't see what the action is. We are only seeing the intention behind the action. Like a mother spanking a child for doing something stupid or dangerous or running across the road or something, right? So that's my question, that's my doubt. It is not doing action when we have the knowledge.
Ma, here when we say action with knowledge means knowing well you are doing it. You have means you have the knowledge.
Knowing right and wrong and still doing the wrong thing. That's what you mean?
Yes.
What about when I have the knowledge, but I still don't do it? I don't do it only. Like I know I should be doing some obligatory action, but I say forget it. Kaun karega? Jaan do. Kaun dekh raha hai mere ko? Jaan do. Nahi karna hai. Ko dil nahi kar raha, man nahi kar raha.
That is abandonment of action. It comes under tamas, no?
So that, and what about when action is done, but guided by intellect, then?
That is wisdom. In fact, intellect, whenever the intellect, buddhi comes in, it is wisdom.
So action
intelligence, information gathering is not wisdom. We are calling information gathering as jnanam. Wisdom as vijnanam. That is the difference that is being drawn. Okay, ma?
Okay. Also, this about the consequences which Reddy Garu just brought up. Action out of ignorance create, or maybe Ram, I don't know.
Yes.
Action out of ignorance creates comfort plus consequences. So comfort is one consequence, and the plus consequences is not that the karma phala. One
That's
is
what
the
we
comfort,
said.
but also the karma phala.
Yes, yes. It's like I may be having a disease within me. I'm comfortable because I do not know that I'm diseased. The consequence is I'm destroying my health every day because I'm not attending to the disease in me. I do not know. I'm announcing myself to be healthy, but the disease is silently killing me. Example, let's say I have cancer. I do not know that I have cancer. And by the time I get tested, they say it's an advanced level of cancer you have. And it is a silent killer. There is no symptoms. Ignorance is bliss because I have not done any test. You see that? But the consequences, it is killing me every day. I'm losing my health every day. I'm losing my life every day. You see that? Therefore, the onus is, that's why they say, isn't it? After a certain age, you must get a medical checkup every 6 months. You must go for a dental checkup every 6 months. You must do this every 6 months. You like it or not. Why? You should not be comfortable in ignorance. Don't seek ignorance, fearful of what might come up. Like they say, every time you go to dental checkup, dentist will say, oh, 2 more new cavities have come. So you're afraid of going for a checkup because you are afraid what new will crop up. That is ignorance. You're actually muted, Tinkima.
So which means both rajasic and tamasic action, that is out of ignorance or out of knowledge, will give us karma phala, but one will give comfort, one will give guilt. So only the sattvic action will not give the karma phala.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Guruji.
Yes. Actually, I don't want to go any further because it's already Reddy Garu, all okay? I'll take your clarification, if any, and then we will leave it at this.
Well, a lot need to be pondered, Guruji. Actually, I made it based on your homework last time. I made about nearly 11 points in my observation of, I don't know where I collected this data between knowledge and wisdom. I
Wonderful.
think that's one for a wind, because none of those things are becoming irrelevant with the subject.
No. I'm sure there's a certain connotation.
Yes,
but if
be.
can, I know I wanted to hear from you all, but then it becomes unfair to those who don't connect and don't share. It was an intended exercise for you all, and then perhaps these pointers will give you a line of thought, and which you can fall back on your study and observation, so that you can bring a match and draw rational conclusions. So
I think one of the profound statement which always lingers in my mind, that knowledge is a tuition given by the guru, wisdom is intuition internally cultivated through manana.
Perfect. Tuition and intuition, very true. Yes, absolutely right.
Through manana.
Yes, absolutely, very good, sir. But you got hold of this concept of guilt?
Yes, it's clear. It's clear.
Right, Jay. Perfect. Right. We'll certainly come back a couple of more points. I think we have covered it all. We'll come back and then we'll get into the text. Harishji, something to share? Anything to say?
No, Guruji, you have said it all.
Okay, Ji. All right. Hari Om. Hariji, something? You can take it up the next session.
I will ask in the next class.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.